Okay, now the last step in the sleep line is talking about a very important component of how siblings come into play with all of this. Everything else we discussed was really kind of independent, concentrated only on your one child. But what happens if you have another child? What happens if you're dealing with more than one child? What happens if your child is affected by another child's sleep? And that's what I'm going to talk about now, the sibling shuffle of how you can really remain intact with your child's sleep line while considering another child as well. Okay, so let's first talk about room sharing. Room sharing. If you have more than one child, you might feel compelled to put your baby and your toddler in the room together. Or it might be something inevitable because of space. You need to move your baby out of your room and you got to get them sleeping with their brother or with their sister. So what should you do and how should you navigate this? Number one, before ever even considering putting children together in the same room, I don't recommend doing it until each child is independently a good sleeper. Okay, you're not going to put baby with toddler when baby wakes up 5 times a night to have a bottle and toddler asks for 5 drinks of water and is going in and out of their room for the bathroom. Not only are you going to be awake a lot, which you already are, but they're going to wake each other up and it's going to be even more of a disaster because the only thing, or if you have one child that's a great sleeper and another child that's not a good sleeper, the only thing being worse than up with one child at night is being up with more than one child at night. So don't plan on moving your children into the same room to share a room until each are independently good sleepers on their own. Cannot stress that enough. Okay, once they're both great sleepers, once you know and you're confident you can move them together, what should you do? Number one, put them together full force, okay? But what happens is you put 10-month-old baby to sleep and 4-year-old brother comes into the room and he's so excited because, oh my goodness, my little 10-month-old baby is in the crib next to me. This is so exciting. And he's singing and he's dancing and he wakes the baby up. Same thing as when you enlisted the ideas of step backs and hurdles when a child gets sick or you're traveling. There's no magic formula. You got to help them get into their own sleep lines while helping them. But the key when they're waking each other up is twofold. Number one, understand that it's going to take a week or two for them to adjust to each other's noises, adjust to hearing this one cough at night and this one sniffle and this one do whatever, and just becoming a less sensitive sleeper. If one child is used to sleeping in the complete silence all night in his room and suddenly there's someone else making some noise, a sensitive sleeper could be affected. Just like there are certain adults who have trouble sleeping with someone who snores. It's the same thing. You can adjust, you can get used to it, but you have to be mindful of that and give your child or children a good week or two to adjust to each other's noises. But technically, what does that mean that you can do in the interim? Either child, if they wake up at night, whether they're woken because they need something or because they wake up from the noise that they're hearing, the key is to get least amount of involvement possible on your part and from you. So if you hear your 4-year-old awake because he heard the baby sniffling and it woke him up, what should you do? You want to have the least amount of involvement possible with that child who woke up while making sure you don't start a whole game and interactive experience in the middle of the night, song and dance with all kids. So try to stay outside the room. Again, move backwards in the gentle phase out methods. Try to stay outside the room, lightly shush, lightly sing to comfort that child that's upset because you don't want to wake up the other child from the involvement you're giving the child that needs you. If that doesn't work, try to get a little bit more involved and move backwards, but try to have it minimal and try to have the least amount of involvement possible because you don't want to wake up the other child and you don't want to develop a new dependency. So there's no magic potion here. It really takes a good week or two for children to adjust to each other's noises, adapt to being in a room. But in the process while they're adapting, definitely you want to comfort the child that's upset, comfort the child that's been woken up, because if you just ignore that child, then they're going to wake up the other child and then both kids are going to be up, which is no fun at all, or 3 kids, however many you're putting in the room, okay? So try to support that child, comfort the child that's upset or woken up by the other child's noises with minimal involvement. Try to stay outside the room, shush. If you need to, go in the room. If you need to, touch. But make sure that you're very, very careful because it's a very gray area of becoming a sleep dependency, and make sure you still phase yourself out again every few nights so that way it doesn't become a full-fledged dependency, but on the same token you're not up. So I'm giving you very gray, non-tangible advice here because this really depends on so many situations. The ages of the kids you're transitioning to room together, how well of sleepers they are, how amazing they sleep on their own, how much noise they make, how sensitive is the other child that you're putting them in together. There's a lot of different components that can affect this, so use your judgment and understand it can take some time. And in the interim, during that transitional process, do whatever you can to comfort the child that is woken up without letting it become a sleep dependency. Okay, so what I want to talk about next is another idea with siblings and juggling them and the sibling shuffle. a lot of people get very, very stressed about bedtime. So we're going to talk about a few main factors that you can use to make bedtime more positive, make bedtime beautiful, because I want to tell you, I view bedtime as the sweetest hour in your home. People get tense about it, they get stressed about it, and I get it. You've had a long day as a parent, you're done, you want to just stick your kids in their cribs, in their beds, so they'll go to sleep, so they can rest, so you can just have some time to yourself, and I get that. But understand that these are the most delicious humans in the universe. They're ours to take care of. They're yours to take care of. And you want to spend that time with them. So step number one to making bedtime positive is doing what I call bedtime staggering. Okay, I really find that it's the only way to be really successful when you have multiple kids, different ages, to put them to sleep. So it doesn't mean having necessarily to keep the oldest one up the latest and putting the youngest one to bed the earliest. It depends on each family and each child. If you have a certain child that you know needs more sleep, if your 6-year-old really needs a lot more sleep than your 5-year-old, then the older one might have to go to bed before the younger one. But as long as you set it up and you have a plan in your head, okay, child A goes to bed at 7, child B goes to bed at 7:20, child C goes to bed at 8, just because that's how much sleep they need and that's what works for you, great. Because if you try to put everyone in their cribs and everyone in their beds at the exact same time, you're going to be running from room to room, giving this one a sippy cup, this one taking the bathroom, changing this baby's diaper. You're just setting yourself up for stress and you're setting yourself up to hate bedtime. So set yourself up technically and make sure that bedtime is staggered positively, so that way you know and can plan properly to get each kid to sleep. And then you can spend special time with each kid before bed. If you stagger bedtime properly, 10-15 minutes each kid, you can spend 10 or 15 minutes with each child, talking to them about their day, bonding with them, cuddling with them, and spending that special time, so that way bedtime doesn't become a stressful hour and bedtime can become the sweetest hour. Okay? Now, with that in mind, know your child. You need to sit down and think about how much child needs how much sleep. You need to see, my child really does really well when he gets 10.5 hours of sleep, but when he gets that 11, he is like amazing. So I need to do whatever I can to make sure he's in bed by X. But his sister, on the other hand, she's totally fine with getting, I don't know, maybe she's 10, and she's fine getting 9 hours of sleep at night, which is on definitely the low end for a 10-year-old, just for your information. But she's fine with that. So why am I rushing to get her to bed when she doesn't even want to go to bed? It's a power struggle. I have to pull her out of the bed in the morning because she went to bed way too late because we were fighting about bedtime. Think about bedtime, how it works with each child, and make a little game plan for yourself and know how much sleep each child needs. More importantly than that, make sure bedtime is a non-issue. Just like we've spoken about the emotional umbilical cord and the independent sleeping aspect, it comes into effect here too, in all aspects of your daily life with your child. If you view bedtime with this big dark cloud of impending doom, it's coming, oh my gosh, it's going to be so stressful. So it's going to be stressful. Be positive. Set yourself up for bedtime being set on a good note. You know what? I'm going to spend some time with this one. We need to spend a little time together bonding, and I'm going to spend those 10 minutes. This one I see, tonight I think it's going to really work out well because now I've set it up better, and it's not going to be a power struggle with her because I think I have bedtime set at a good time for her, so she's not going to be battling. Just like you need to eat, and you need to wear a sweater when it's cold, and you have to wear boots when you're going outside in the snow, we go to bed just like we brush our teeth, and it's taking care of our body. It's not a punishment. It's not something that has to happen, because if you view it with that stress, your child's going to pick up on that stress, okay? So make sure you use it as a bonding time. Make sure you do something that you enjoy, and make sure you stagger that bedtime so it can be set up properly. And that's really all just about being technical, because when you set sleep up for success and you're planned and you're thought out with all aspects of this sleep line that we've talked about, planning for daylight savings time, planning for sibling shuffle, planning for naps, planning for traveling, and when hurdles arise, you will have all the tools in your pocket to use when your sleep gets thrown off, so you have that sleep line to get right back on.